Hello everyone. The title of today's episode is Path of Sincerity. And so Mr. Within would like to talk about a certain approach towards human experience and human existence that Mr. Within finds it to be efficient, but efficient in the way that you will reveal it to yourself. So, what is the path to sincerity? In life, as one navigates and as one is many different characters through many different stories, in other words, you have many different experiences, many different people you meet and whatnot. You begin to see in all the living you have been doing, you have cultivated a sense of realization that has continued so far. For when one tries to locate an honest man, he begins to see that honesty could have been present in every moment, so that sense of honesty is omnipresent. You have always been honest, but the lie has been in what you have engaged with to create on a subtler plane, which then has become real for you as you have attracted it in regards to manifestation. But attraction is also not something that man can only linearly understand, he must non-linearly understand as well. And so when we looked at how intelligence has an unknown factor and a known factor, it's not about what teachings you get from knowledge or only the known factor. It's the fact of the approach that you get that allows you to handle both your sense of known and your sense of unknown. Now the mystic realizes this and begins to bring everything here and now. As he does, time and space don't even get a chance to look at you through a watch because you are present before they have, in a sense, landed in your consciousness. So what that means is that the actuality of experience, which takes the seeker towards the core of its sincere being, is one where he begins to realize that in seeking for the real eyes, the intelligence had a transcendental quality, meaning that only as a body you cannot discover what is beyond a body, because your immediate consideration is too solid to be loose, to be fluid. So what that means is you must begin with the profundity that perhaps many have seen to be the awareness to a sense of emptiness, which is the gas state, let's say. And so as you look at that, you begin to realize that simultaneously within your experience, you have a solid aspect of experience, which is this physical body. You have a fluid sense of experience, which is the awareness in regards to thoughts. And then you have an empty sense, where all this objectivity and subjectivity, regardless of how it has initiated itself into the plane of existence, is being aware of the plane of existence, and it's seeing the vastness of intelligence, as if the drop has found the ocean and realized that the ocean was always in the drop. What that means is we are not only capable of being an individuality that is evolving towards a sense of collectivity, but we are too simultaneously a sense of collectivity being within the individuality. And if you become existentially sensitive, you begin to move pretty much what happens is in regards to realization, it's that in your sincerity, in your sense of being honest with yourself, your attention aligns. So your vision is being harmonized to your sense of honest clarity with yourself. It doesn't matter if you have lied to anyone else. It matters if you are still lying to yourself. Because you are here to allow your experience to sprout in new ways. So you look at the old dimensions and begin to see that that gaze was new. Do you see? In the sense that every memory in the past has been constantly refabricated to be kept in a certain way. What that means is the clay master lives in the moment, but the sculpture could always be valued from a past or future, but a value that is hollow. Because your direct experience, as activated through your sense of being sincere with yourself, will give you a great understanding. And how Mr. Within suggests this is go out into a very nice nature spot, a forest, or your local park, and just sit down and close your eyes and just be still, and for a moment experience the stillness and silence of your being, that in an instant are an awareness to all noise and movement, and so simply be and realize that in your being life is still continuing, and the intelligence of that continuum is holistic, because it is keeping temporal reality here. What that means is there's a very important phenomena, whether some people want to call it gravitation, some can call it the gravitation of thought. Where are ideas going but to the core origination of the awareness that allowed there to even be something big enough to have a bang? What that means is measurement is to some degree us in a man in a sandbox of the certain space and time he has individualized in, or the recognition that you were just playing and that all that was here was also not here, for you would journey beyond this realm. And so what that means is when you look at the nature of memory, you need to also look at the nature of the memory of the world. So let's say if we had memories, let's say I find Anne Frank's diary and I begin reading. There are human memories there. But let's say similarly, I begin to realize, and in a sense very playfully, visualize how if this whole world was a greater being, would I be like its memory? And so you begin to look at the development of consciousness, and it begins from personal choice, but once the awareness, the self-awareness has confronted beyond the sense of personality, presence opens up the choiceless dimensions of reality, which you don't need to make a choice. You are flowing. What that means is when the drop falls into the river, it has no choice. And when the river goes into the ocean, there's no choice. There's just divine union, existential transcendence. For in the vastness, that was the sharpest gaze, the edge of our eye. Man tried to be free, but some men looked and realized why. Wherein was freedom taken away from consciousness? How can it be taken? It is just absolute realization. Because within absolute realization, you're allowing yourself to experience clarity. You're letting your moment be what it is. So what that means is that moment when life knocked me out a couple of times in the boxing ring, I began to see what was my simple nature. So the concept of simplicity became very interesting, because I looked at everything and I realized the flows of life, the opposition, the challenges, and oh gosh, all the stuff I'm going to do is all, you know, a sense of response. And so what is there more than the response, this complex response? And so I looked at simplicity. And in simplicity, I noticed that there's a level before we really take things too seriously, that in our playfulness, we're allowing ourselves to playfully have all our ideas. What that means is when your friend is telling you a joke, you don't tell them, oh, no, that's not true, that's not real, it's a joke. But it's only when you take it to the concept of that, which you begin to see in the concept of, let's say, a certain have-to-be scenario where sanity and insanity become different voices and the louder one won, So the path of sincerity is really how life comes down to your moment. Your moment is now, and every form that you see is being made aware of by an infinite sense of existential change that man playfully calls the passage of space and time when he's having an experience. But the nature of the experiencer transcends. It is not a fading cloud, it is a limitless sky, and it goes beyond, for the void is just the entrance. For there are some realms when man will dance with a sense of infinity, where he is constantly shifting his form, but it is all in regards to your subtler planes. So this physicality is not touched. So you could be sitting in a park, and imagine if I just like a video game, paused everything. If everything paused, you would see simultaneously your experience would be still in the park, but perhaps more open in another dimension, where it is more movement. So once you make this more still, another dimension of movement becomes more real. And so you become aware in a manner where you're working with your sense of self-exploration. Who am I? The greatest companion you need. This question will take you to the core of life. Some men ask, how do you get to the center of the earth? I told them, get to the center of the world, get to the center of the cosmos. Through self-inquiry, through a self-awareness that does not need to function in a certain manner. Because the attitude was never the justification. The possibility of all attitudes was the justification. We must give all human beings the greatest experience of humanity, and together we must figure this problem. This is the biggest problem. How can we provide the best experience for humanity? And so we need to see that together we need to come, and communities need to develop, and these communities need to very playfully look at the most graceful and peaceful human beings who have ever lived, look at their teachings and incorporate these, and in a very mature and responsible manner, make very efficient and smart choices that are moving towards an instant availability of greatness to all beings in that moment. So what that means is, you as a human being, once you become very sincere and honest, you will begin to see that your glow will be one of a light feeling, as if people will look at you and they will be like, he's not carrying that much baggage, his life is not so hard for him, why is that suddenly, and they'll begin to notice that it is because your awareness to life did not have to keep the same personalities or ideas there. We're still in this vehicle of a sense of human form, but when you begin to look at the experiencer is the whole moment, and the whole moment is not just being originated from sensory perception. What that means is, when you look at a vase or something, or some very, let's say, magnificent Japanese master hand kind of vase or something, you know. You'll begin to see that the intelligence is not just because of how the vase is objective. It's not just because how the world looks like this. It's because how man receives it, he was considering himself as creation. So we are taking an existential responsibility for being creation, but when you take an existential responsibility for being also simultaneously the creator, you will begin to see polarities will not exist because you are constantly, in a sense, fluctuating between a unified and individual experience to the degree that you're aware that you're neither. And so being aware that you're neither is that moment where the answer was in how the problem was allowed to take place. The blessing of a sincere man is cosmic grace. The path of sincerity is the path that is taking you to where you need to intuitively realize yourself to be consciously. What that means is we are all climbing this mountain, and so your feet are your greatest teachers. Look at how you have lived, look at how you have walked, and realize that now you have the observance of a compassion that is the new opening of a gate of love. So what that means is you your vision is no longer seeking the same values in regards to a dualistic view, but in just being, there is a flow of how things are simply gravitating towards you. What that means is I find that in regards to this human projection of an experience, when internally things are simple, you're gifted with complexity very simply. But if complexity is how you're looking at things internally if things are complex, you will begin to see that your gifts will become ones of simplicity. So if life seems too complex, you will see that you will be naturally gravitated to things that are simpler. And you can begin to see this in perhaps many movies. For example, we see the mafioso who is this very tough guy. In that kind of reality, you suddenly see, you know, the lips of another life, of another woman. And so that love takes a man to a sense of responsibility to self to experience the other dimensions of life as well. Do not just be a working machine. Be aware of how machines work beyond mechanism. For in space and time, the greatest self-exploration is timeless and spaceless. The path of sincerity is when your moment is all that is here. And so you're comfortable with all that is here. I would like to share a quote by a very wise sage, this realized being. And this very realized being, a very simple being, said, "When I see that I am nothing, that is wisdom. When I see that I am everything, that is love. And between these two, my life moves." In your awareness to all that is present in your moment, a sense of totality will come within you that will fulfill you, for you are aware of the emptiness of this plane. Because your wealth and abundance is no longer externally in one sense of dimension, it is in your experience. So direct experience, the quality of your experience is that moment where a sense of, it's as if the mirror of life is showing you a face so transcendental that names could never do it justice. And words could never become the absolute world. In love, open your eyes like the only door. Your novelty is the blessing of your inspiration to express genius through the nature of your design. Blessings to the being. Who remembered the honesty and sincerity of all manifestation. Within all sight. It is no longer about other people. It is about your experience of the moment and the beauty that is within every breath. Submerged in empty words, an instant is all you need. Forget the flying saucer. Who is there to be? It is time to walk towards the heart of hearts. For we do not just hear our heartbeat, we hear the heartbeat of existence. And that is why the sincere are always in love. Much blessings and namaste.